Birch trees are found all over northwestern Ontario. There are many different species of birch. Our people have long used the bark from birch trees for survival. Canoes, sealed with pitch, moose collars, baskets, and baby carriers were all made from this resourceful material. Birch is harvested when the fireflies and the rose hips first come out in early summer. Bark collection. Birch that is near water will be more elastic and will be easier to work with. Plants that are growing near a water source will be much healthier. When selecting your tree, choosing one that is free from knots, branches, injury, and scars will provide you with materials that will be easier to work with when it is time to make our items. You can see this one has no knots in it or bumps, so it's going to be it's more malleable, it's going to be easy to bend and manipulate to make a basket. Cutting the bark. Some people prefer a knife, while some prefer a hatchet or an axe.
So a lot of times we're told, like ourselves, to harvest above hip. So for us, we measure that way because it's in our lower extremities that give life. It's the same thing for birch. So we want to harvest anything above our own hips because its lower part is the roots and to support whatever grafting it may need with other plants to support each other. And when you do harvest it, you try not to go in too deep. You want to go gently, and you don't have to go too hard. So it's pretty neat. Again, a lot of these things, they'll regrow. As you see my fingers, it will regrow. And again, another layer will come, but it also come back wider. So if we come back here in a few years, these trees will be a lot bigger because of what we're doing right now. We're not hurting them, we're helping them to get bigger, to get stronger. So it's like anybody in life, we go through trials and tribulations, and these things are meant to help us to understand our own growth.
Smell that.
And it's like birch. There's different types of birch. There's white, yellow. Obviously this is pink. So there's each, again, have different properties for different medicines and for different uses. This would be used for ceremony because of the color. So I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna use it for any type of medicine that I'm gonna be doing, any type of ceremonies. I'm gonna use this just strictly for that. The other white birch, those are things I'm gonna use for my birch bark baskets, canoes, all those type of things. But for this, because it's a medicine tree, I'm gonna use it for ceremonies, for making feasting plates, for making different kind of baskets that I need to put out in the bush so it can become, again, part of nature. So that's why I'm picking this right now.
At this time, we remove any moss, peeling bark on the outer side, and small knots that can be scraped off. This will make the bark easier to store until we get home. To transport our harvested bark, we pile the pieces neatly into a pile, Roll it and tie it to ensure that the bark does not roll back on itself.
Well, the only reason why we picked the spot is because it's less inhabited by humans, and the fact that this is an older area which has less forest harvesting, and the fact that it's rich in culture, rich in history, which is why we came here. A lot of the things that have been done in Thunder Bay are all beautiful, is all great, but we come here because we come for the tradition, we come for the culture, and again, to create our own steps for their class.
And to be alone in the bush when you're constantly surrounded by airplanes and cars and trains and cell phones, you're missing out on so many teachings. I collect my spruce roots from a very special place on Fort William First Nation. We choose to harvest the roots in the bog where the black spruce, tamarack, and a variety of medicines are found.
As you can see, this forest is very different from the place that we picked birch bark from. So it has a lot of different other types of plants. This is more of a boreal forest.
Once we have arrived at the bog, we will remove the top layer of the moss.
Underneath the moss is where we'll find a lot of the spruce roots. And that is, the spruce roots are the things, they'll grow naturally to maybe 4 inches deep. Its roots will spread out wide. As you see the sap runs, now is the time when we pick spruce roots. It's particularly softer and a lot easier to harvest. And the other part of this is a long time ago in the Anishinaabe, they used to chew this. It was our first wiggly spirit, our first gum, our first hubba bubba. So this is what gave us vitamin C.
Once we have arrived at the bog, we take the top portion of the moss off to access the roots underneath. The moss can go down as far as 15 feet in some areas. The bog allows for us to feel for the roots underneath the ground.
It's about working together. And as humans, we can't just come and disrupt the earth, and think this is how we do it. So for my elders, they always tell me, if you see a hole in the ground, don't go near it. It could have babies. It could be a rabbit, it could be a fox. It could be different life. So you don't want to disrupt that area. You don't want to disrupt it, even if you're 5 feet from it. The scent, our scent that we leave behind through our hands, the oils that we leave behind, animals pick that up right away. And for them, it's danger. They know as humans, sometimes we come and destroy this area, again, to create paper, because a lot of these spruce trees are used for creating paper that we write in our schools or that we see in our office. So it's easier to harvest. We're not hurting the spruce at all. We're actually, like the birch tree, we are making it stronger. So when you follow these things, you give it some clearance so you don't have to keep breaking it.
Once the root has been removed, it's now time to take the outer protective layer off of the root. We do this by rubbing it back and forth over the bark of a spruce tree. Doing this cleaning process at this time while the roots are wet and fresh makes it much easier than trying to remove the bark afterwards.
Before we go home, we leave part of the skin behind. Again, to become part of the land again, to have that food, and to make it a lot easier when we get home. So as you see, the skin just comes off simply, a lot easier. And normally we fold them like this.
If we were to try to harvest roots from a different location where the ground is compact from the dirt, it would be very difficult for us to remove the roots intact from the ground. Before we leave, we return the moss back to its original placement as best we can. The roots can be stored now and used over the winter, as long as they are completely dry. Okay, now you can cut it.
Why does it smell like that?
Here to here.
Pretty big guy.
We are visual storytellers, and our patterns have been passed down from generation to generation.
The whole size of the, well, maybe not the whole size, but maybe half of it. So just cut the paper in half. I was taught by Maggie and Dan McGiskin, and Maggie would not measure anything. She wouldn't use rulers, and she would say, we never had rulers before. You make it to sight. But Dan would always use rulers, so.
Now that we are ready to start, we will take our roots and let them soak for about 1 hour before we begin. Our way of life, we have always included children to participate in the harvesting and teachings. Spend time with your birch bark. Getting to know the materials that you are going to work with will help you to decide what it is you would like to make. Visualize how the pattern will look on your bark. Position your pattern in various places. There are a lot of creative decisions here, so take your time.
Find patterns on it or pieces that look good. You know, like I think these look like birds. Like find a piece that speaks to you.
Once you have selected the item that you would like to make, place your pattern on top of your birch bark. Trace your pattern with a pencil or pen. Now you may cut your birch bark and begin sewing. Using clips will help to hold your basket into place. Using an awl, pierce your bark to create the holes to sew your roots through. Various types of stitching may be used here.
It's like, wow, it was like going maybe like yeah. We're like, woo!
I'm just doing a running stitch.
Yeah.
I would do your holes, sew it. Do your holes, sew it. Yeah.
Okay.
Smaller roots may be used, and thicker roots may also be used by splicing with an awl. There is nothing you can do wrong. Be creative and enjoy your experience.
I'm officially a TikTok dad at the door. Alright, Cass, I'm starting.
I think you need to wet your root. Because right now, those holes are going to start sealing themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Right? The wood end up underneath your tent.
To complete your basket, use a branch of willow to stabilize the opening of the basket. This will help the basket to keep its shape and will provide stability. Be kind and patient with yourself and enjoy. This is a beautiful process of working with birch bark. Miigwech. These are the teachings that I have received in my lifetime. Continue to practice these teachings and share these with others.